This video is for educational purposes only, not medical advice. Always consult your doctor before making any dietary or lifestyle changes. There's a fruit carved into the bronze pillars standing at the entrance of Solomon's temple. The same fruit is used to describe a face full of color and life in one of the most beautiful love poems ever written, tucked inside the Bible itself. And today, most people only encounter it as an artificial red dye and a cherry-flavored syrup in a can. Every afternoon, around 3 o'clock, Harold pulls that can out of the fridge. Same brand, same routine, for longer than he can remember. It's not really about the taste anymore. It's just the thing that happens at 3 o'clock. What Harold doesn't know is that thousands of years before anyone had heard of a soda can, that exact fruit, the one carved into the temple, the one in the poem, was what people actually reached for instead. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what that fruit is, and one simple swap that brings something far older than a soda can back into Harold's 3 o'clock routine. If you're new here, subscribe to Ancestral Fix. Every week we find what the ancient world knew and what your body still needs. Stay with me. The fruit is the pomegranate. It appears throughout the Song of Solomon as a symbol of beauty and abundance. Your cheeks are like the halves of a pomegranate, one verse says, describing a face full of color and life. In the book of Exodus, pomegranates are woven into the hem of the priestly garments, alongside golden bells, worn specifically inside the tabernacle. In the first book of Kings, pomegranate designs decorate the great bronze pillars standing at the entrance to Solomon's temple. This wasn't a background fruit. It was significant enough to carve into some of the most sacred architecture in the ancient world. Archaeologists have found pomegranate remains in Bronze Age sites across the eastern Mediterranean, and the fruit was cultivated and traded throughout the ancient Near East for thousands of years before refrigeration, before bottling, before anyone had ever built a vending machine. This wasn't limited to the world of the Bible either. In ancient Persia, the pomegranate was associated with abundance and prosperity, sometimes depicted alongside royalty in surviving artwork. In ancient Greece, the pomegranate carried its own mythology, tied to the story of Persephone and the changing of the seasons. In Egypt, pomegranates have been found placed in tombs as offerings meant to accompany the dead into the afterlife. Across cultures with no direct contact with one another, the same fruit kept showing up as something worth honoring, worth burying with kings, worth carving into temple walls. So what did people actually do with it? Beyond eating the seeds directly, pressing pomegranates for their juice is one of the oldest fruit preparations in the historical record, mentioned in texts from ancient Persia, Egypt, and the Levant alike. It wasn't a specialty item. In the hot, dry climate of the ancient Near East, a tart, deeply colored juice pressed from a fruit that stored well through the winter was simply a practical, valuable thing to have on hand. Let's talk about what changed, because this is really the heart of Harold's 3 o'clock can. Modern soda is a relatively recent invention, becoming a truly everyday household habit only in the last century. Once bottling and refrigeration made it cheap, convenient, and endlessly available. It's built around sugar, often a great deal of it, along with caffeine and artificial coloring or flavoring, designed to be immediately, intensely pleasant and easy to drink quickly. Pure pomegranate juice, by contrast, is simply pressed fruit, tart, a little sharp, with a natural sweetness that never had to be manufactured. Here's a detail most people never think about, and it might change how you look at that dark red color the next time you see it. Much of the deep red color in pomegranate juice comes from a group of plant compounds called anthocyanins and other polyphenols, the same broad family of antioxidant compounds found in foods like blueberries and dark grapes. Here's the part that's easy to miss. That color isn't decoration. It's the same reason a bruise turns purple, or why red wine leaves a stain that won't come out of a tablecloth. And these pigments are chemically active, not just pretty. The deeper and darker the juice, the more of these compounds it's likely carrying. Harold's soda, no matter what color dye is added to it, has none of that. Its color is manufactured to look appealing. The pomegranate's color is a byproduct of what's actually inside it. These compounds are generally associated with supporting the health of blood vessels, and pomegranate juice specifically has been studied more than most fruit juices for its potential role in cardiovascular health, since it's naturally concentrated in these compounds in a way lighter-colored juices simply aren't. None of this makes pomegranate juice a cure for anything, and it's still a source of natural sugar, so it isn't something to drink without any limit either. But there's a meaningful difference between a fruit juice that carries these compounds along with its natural sugar and a soda built from refined sugar, caffeine, and artificial additives with nothing else riding along with it. Let's move into why this matters more specifically after 60. Blood vessel and heart health tend to become more of a daily consideration as we age. And while pomegranate juice is not a substitute for anything your doctor has prescribed, it's exactly the kind of small or everyday swap that can shift the overall pattern of what you're drinking without requiring any real sacrifice in the moment. Harold doesn't need to give up his 3 o'clock ritual, the pause, the fridge, the cold glass in his hand. He just needs to change what's in it. Now, before you picture Harold drinking pomegranate juice by the pitcher, that's not what this is about. Like any fruit juice, it's still concentrated in natural sugar with the fiber of the whole fruit removed, so a small glass, not an endless refill, is the right amount to aim for. What we're talking about is a direct swap for the soda can specifically, not an invitation to drink juice freely all day. So how would this actually work? The simplest version is buying 100% pomegranate juice with no added sugar at the grocery store. Check the ingredient list for just pomegranate juice, since many bottled blends dilute it heavily with apple or grape juice and added sugar to cut the cost and the tartness. A small glass, 4 to 6 ounces, poured over ice, makes a satisfying afternoon drink that still feels like a treat, the way the soda can once did. It's worth spending a moment on how to tell a genuine pomegranate juice from an imitation, since the shelf can be confusing. Real, unsweetened pomegranate juice is deeply colored, almost like dark red wine, and tastes distinctly tart, sometimes sharp enough to make you pucker slightly. If a bottle tastes purely sweet, with no real tartness to it, it's likely heavily diluted or blended with sweeter juices. Price is often a rough clue too. A genuine concentrated pomegranate juice tends to cost more per bottle than a juice blend padded out with cheaper apple or grape juice, simply because pomegranates themselves are more labor-intensive to press. If you want to go further toward what the ancient world actually drank, pressing your own juice from whole pomegranates is simpler than it looks. Score the skin into quarters, break the fruit apart into a bowl of water, which helps separate the seeds from the bitter white pith. Then blend the seeds briefly and strain through a fine mesh strainer or cheesecloth. One large pomegranate yields roughly half a cup of fresh juice, tart and considerably more vivid in flavor than most bottled versions. For a treat that still feels indulgent, sparkling water with a splash of pure pomegranate juice makes a homemade alternative to soda that keeps the fizzy, refreshing quality Harold's used to, without the sugar load or artificial ingredients of the can he's been reaching for. Same fizz in the glass, same cold, satisfying first sip, just a different history behind what's actually in it. One thing worth mentioning: pomegranate juice can interact with certain medications, including some blood pressure medications and blood thinners, in a manner similar to grapefruit juice. If you take either of these, it's worth a quick conversation with your doctor or pharmacist before making pomegranate juice a daily habit. There's something worth sitting with in the fact that Harold's soda can, something that feels like it's simply always been part of the afternoon, is barely 100 years old, as an everyday household habit. The fruit it quietly replaced was significant enough to carve into the entrance of a temple, significant enough to describe a face full of life and color in one of the most poetic books of the Bible, and it never actually disappeared. It just stopped being the obvious choice once something faster and sweeter came along in a can. Now, if you've spent years hearing that all fruit juice is essentially the same as soda, that's worth addressing directly. That caution generally applies most to juice with added sugar or juice consumed in large quantities without any limit, which is a fair concern. A small glass of pure, unsweetened pomegranate juice consumed the way you'd have consumed a can of soda carries a meaningfully different nutritional profile than a can of cola. Not because pomegranate juice is magic, but because it isn't manufactured from the ground up to be as intensely sweet and immediately addictive as possible. This is really the same quiet theme running through so much of what we cover on this channel. It's rarely about a single drink or food being purely good or purely bad. It's about noticing which version of something old and valuable got quietly replaced by something newer, cheaper, and more heavily engineered, often without anyone consciously choosing that trade. Let's come back to where we started. A soda can pulled from the fridge at 3 o'clock out of habit more than anything else, and a fruit carved into the walls of an ancient temple, described in some of the most beautiful poetry in Scripture, still growing in gardens today, exactly as tart and vivid as it always was. If there's one thing to take from today, let it be this. Sometimes the newer habit in your hand is the one that's actually less familiar to your body, and the older one, waiting quietly at the grocery store, is the one it's been asking for all along. This video is for educational purposes only and is not medical advice. Always consult your doctor before making dietary changes, especially if you take blood pressure medication or blood thinners. If this kind of ancestral wisdom speaks to you, consider subscribing, because next time we're looking at a weapon the Byzantine Empire used for 800 years that was so effective and so secret, the formula disappeared when the empire fell. We'd love to have you along.